What if the very foundations of human history, the narratives we've painstakingly constructed over millennia, were not just incomplete, but fundamentally flawed? Imagine a world where the ancient tales of gods descending from the heavens were not mere mythology, but distorted echoes of a forgotten yet profoundly real past. For centuries, scholars, theologians, and intrepid adventurers have sifted through the dusty remains of bygone civilizations, deciphering cryptic texts and interpreting enigmatic artifacts. They have painted a picture of humanity's slow, arduous climb from primeval wilderness to complex societies, driven by ingenuity and evolving understanding. Yet beneath this carefully curated tapestry of progress, a persistent, unsettling whisper endures. What if our origins are far more extraordinary, far more alien than we dare to conceive? The very notion challenges the core tenets of our scientific and spiritual beliefs, forcing a radical re-evaluation of our place in the cosmos. It suggests that perhaps, just perhaps, the architects of our earliest civilizations were not entirely human. This journey begins in the scorched earth of Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization, a place where the sun beat down relentlessly on fertile crescent lands, nurturing the earliest known urban centers. Here, amidst the baked clay and the shifting sands of what is now modern-day Iraq, archaeologists unearthed something truly astounding: thousands upon thousands of cuneiform tablets inscribed with intricate stories, laws, and epic poems. These weren't simple folk tales. They were meticulous records, detailing the lives, loves, and most importantly, the origins of the Sumerian people. And within these ancient, almost impossibly old scriptures, a name reverberated with undeniable power and unsettling regularity: the Anunnaki. If you're already intrigued, hit that like button, because what you're about to hear changes everything. Who were these beings spoken of with such reverence and fear? The Sumerians, an advanced civilization credited with inventing writing, the wheel, and sophisticated astronomical knowledge, described them not as abstract deities, but as flesh and blood entities who descended from the heavens, those who from heaven to earth came. They were depicted with immense stature, often with wings, possessing knowledge and technologies far beyond anything humanity possessed at the time. They were the primordial rulers, the grand architects, and most controversially, the supposed progenitors of humanity itself. Their arrival, according to these ancient records, was not a spiritual revelation, but a physical landing, a profound intervention that reshaped the destiny of a nascent planet. The air of the Mesopotamian plains, once filled with the simple sounds of nascent human communities, now hummed with the energy of advanced craft, casting long, strange shadows across the awakening dawn. The desert winds carried not just sand, but the whispers of a secret history, a forbidden legacy awaiting rediscovery. The very concept of gods walking among men, teaching them the arts of civilization, building cities, and even interbreeding with them, shatters the conventional understanding of evolution and divine creation. The implications are staggering. If the Anunnaki were indeed extraterrestrial beings who directly influenced our early development, then the narrative of human autonomy, of our self-made ascent, becomes a carefully constructed illusion. Their presence would mean that the concept of divine right, held by ancient kings, wasn't merely a political ploy, but perhaps a reflection of actual, tangible lineage. It would suggest that the powerful dynasties of old, the pharaohs, emperors, and chieftains, might have claimed their authority not from abstract gods, but from direct ancestral connections to these celestial visitors. The blood flowing through their veins, they believed, was not just human, but carried a potent, perhaps even genetically distinct essence of their cosmic forebears. This legacy, passed down through carefully guarded bloodlines, would represent a forbidden knowledge, a secret power jealously protected by a select few. The very light of the Mesopotamian sun, once illuminating simple mud brick homes, now seemed to expose the stark, unsettling truth of a grand cosmic plan, a blueprint laid out by beings from another world. The soil beneath their feet, tilled by human hands, might have held the genetic markers of a grand experiment, forever linking humanity to its otherworldly creators. The fertile land, teeming with life, became a silent witness to a truth too monumental to be fully comprehended by its earthly inhabitants. The scent of wood smoke mingling with the dry, ancient dust carried the weight of untold stories, stories about beginnings and interventions that defy conventional understanding. The textures of the rough clay tablets, cool beneath an archaeologist's fingertips, seemed to vibrate with a resonance from deep time, a faint echo of the voices of those who wrote them, voices that spoke of the Anunnaki. This isn't just about ancient history. It's about our history, our present, and potentially our future. The forbidden legacy of primordial rulers, these Anunnaki bloodlines, might not be confined to the dusty annals of Sumerian lore. They could, in theory, persist even today, woven into the very fabric of our global power structures, influencing decisions and shaping destinies from the shadows. The notion is enough to send shivers down the spine of even the most hardened skeptic. It implies a continuity of influence, a hidden thread connecting the dawn of civilization to the complexities of the modern world. It suggests that the long-forgotten whispers of alien intervention might still resonate in the opulent halls of power, in the hushed conversations behind closed doors, and in the guarded secrets of elite families. The sun, as it rises over our modern cities, might be illuminating a world still subtly, yet profoundly, guided by the genetic legacy of those who, from heaven to earth, came. It's a compelling, terrifying, and utterly captivating proposition, one that demands closer scrutiny, a peeling back of layers that have obscured this profound truth for countless generations. The scent of ozone, sometimes associated with lightning, almost feels like a ghost of the Anunnaki's arrival, a subtle reminder of their powerful presence. The sounds of modern life, the distant hum of traffic, the chirping of cicadas, all blend into a symphony that quietly, unknowingly, plays out on a stage set by these ancient visitors. If this beginning has already made you rethink what you knew, imagine what's coming next. So go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because here, every video reveals something few dare to show. To truly grasp the profound implications of the Anunnaki narrative, one must venture back to its primary source, the Sumerian civilization, which flourished in Mesopotamia between 4500 and 1900 BCE. The Sumerians were not just a people, they were the architects of the world's first true urban culture, a society so sophisticated that its achievements continue to astound modern historians and archaeologists. Their cities, like Uruk-Ur and Lagash, were bustling centers of commerce, innovation, and learning, protected by massive walls of sun-baked mud bricks. The sounds of daily life in these cities would have been a vibrant symphony. The distant cries of merchants hawking their wares in the bustling marketplaces, the rhythmic clang of hammers from coppersmiths shaping tools, the lowing of cattle being led through narrow, dusty streets, and the constant murmur of human voices speaking the agglutinative Sumerian tongue. The air, thick with the scent of freshly baked bread, wood smoke, and the earthy aroma of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, carried the palpable energy of a civilization in full bloom. People wore simple tunics, often made of wool or linen, dyed in earthy tones, their skin tanned by the relentless Mesopotamian sun. The ground beneath their sandals was often uneven, a mix of packed earth and cobblestones, leading past homes made of clay, their flat roofs providing a cool respite in the evening. It is within this context that we find the most compelling evidence for the Anunnaki. The Sumerians left behind an astonishing literary legacy, meticulously inscribed on clay tablets in their innovative cuneiform script. These tablets were not hidden in secret vaults. They were part of public archives, temple libraries, and even private homes. They detailed everything from mundane administrative records to complex mathematical equations, and crucially, their cosmogony, their creation myths, and epic histories. Among these thousands of tablets, certain texts stand out with chilling clarity. The Enuma Elish, the Sumerian creation epic, and the epics of Enki and Enlil, two prominent Anunnaki figures. The Enuma Elish, in particular, describes a cosmic drama far grander than any human-centric narrative. It speaks of a primordial chaos, a battle between cosmic entities, and the eventual creation of Earth and humanity. But unlike other creation myths that feature an ethereal, abstract deity, the Sumerian texts speak of beings who arrived. They descended from the heavens, not as spirits or metaphors, but as tangible, powerful entities who established order, taught mankind, and even engaged in conflicts amongst themselves. The light of the Mesopotamian dawn, filtering into the scribal schools, illuminated hands carefully pressing reeds into soft clay, preserving these incredible tales for eternity. The tablets, once damp and malleable, now sat hard and enduring, holding secrets that would one day challenge the very fabric of accepted history. The language used in these texts is remarkably specific. The term Anunnaki itself translates, as mentioned, to those who from heaven to earth came. This isn't flowery poetic language, it is a direct descriptor of their origin and arrival. The texts meticulously detail their purpose for coming to Earth. They were here for gold, not for its aesthetic beauty, but for its unique properties, essential for their home planet's atmosphere, which was reportedly deteriorating. The narrative unfolds like a cosmic mining operation, with advanced beings using Earth as a resource outpost. The sounds of their advanced machinery, though long silent, echo in the descriptions of their capabilities, suggesting technology far beyond simple digging tools. Imagine the contrast. Early humans using primitive stone tools, observing these gods, manipulating the very earth with unseen forces, shaping landscapes and extracting precious metals. The sheer scale of their ambition, as described, is breathtaking. They established mining colonies, not just small digs, but vast operations, altering the environment in ways that would have been incomprehensible to the indigenous human populations. The scorching sun, a constant companion to the Sumerians, also beat down on these alien miners, perhaps reflecting off their metallic tools and gleaming vehicles, creating shimmering mirages in the distant heat. The names of these Anunnaki beings resonate through the tablets. Anu, the Sky Father; Enlil, the Lord of Command and Execution; Enki, the Lord of Earth and Wisdom, often depicted as a benevolent figure, a bringer of knowledge and progress. These were not abstract archetypes. They were characters with distinct personalities, rivalries, and complex motivations. The tablets detail their councils, their decrees, their disagreements, and their interactions with the nascent human populations. They built cities, established laws, and imparted knowledge of agriculture, astronomy, and even complex societal structures. The meticulous detail in these narratives paints a picture not of divine magic, but of advanced scientific and technological intervention. The textures of the cuneiform, with its wedge-shaped marks, tell a story of intentionality, of a deliberate effort to record facts as they understood them. The air around the temples, often perfumed with incense during rituals, also carried the reverence for these beings who had so profoundly shaped their world. The smooth, cool stone of the temple walls seemed to absorb and reflect the ancient stories, holding them in silent vigil. The very existence of these detailed, consistent accounts across multiple Sumerian tablets poses a profound challenge to mainstream historical and anthropological understanding. Are these merely elaborate myths designed to explain the inexplicable, or are they historical records, meticulously preserved accounts of actual events witnessed and documented by the earliest civilizations? The sheer volume and consistency of the cuneiform tablets argue strongly for the latter. They describe a historical period, albeit one filtered through the perspective of beings whose understanding of the universe dwarfed that of humanity. The Sumerians viewed their relationship with the Anunnaki as one of servitude and worship, but also one of profound dependence. The Anunnaki were their teachers, their rulers, and their creators. This isn't a narrative about humans discovering agriculture or inventing writing through sheer ingenuity. It's a narrative about these fundamental advancements being given to them. The scent of the clay, still clinging faintly to some recovered tablets, is a powerful reminder of these long-forgotten origins, a tangible link to a time when gods walked the earth and set the stage for humanity's dramatic entrance. The constant drone of cicadas in the Sumerian twilight might have once provided the soundtrack to Anunnaki pronouncements, their strange language echoing across the fertile plains. The feeling of the dry earth underfoot, after so many millennia, still seems to whisper tales of ancient footsteps, both human and something far grander. As the Anunnaki narrative began to solidify within Sumerian culture, detailing their arrival and their gold mining endeavors, another crucial and deeply controversial element emerges from the ancient texts: the direct involvement of these celestial beings in the creation, or rather, the genetic modification of humanity. This isn't a subtle suggestion or an allegorical fable. It's a stark, almost clinical account detailed in texts like the Atrahasis epic and other creation narratives. The story begins with the Anunnaki themselves, specifically the Igigi, the lower-ranking Anunnaki, toiling tirelessly in the gold mines. The labor was grueling, relentless, and took a heavy toll. The sun, beating down mercilessly on the vast mining operations, created an environment of constant fatigue and discontent. The sounds of picks hitting rock, the groans of exhaustion, and the frustrated shouts of the Igigi filled the air, a stark contrast to the serene, cultivated image of gods. These were not beings immune to hardship. They felt the weariness, the ache in their bones, the relentless pressure of their tasks. The dust and grime of the mines clung to their garments, obscuring any celestial aura they might have possessed, making them seem almost tragically mortal in their labor. A rebellion brewed. The Igigi, fed up with the harsh conditions and the endless grind, laid down their tools. The weight of their frustration was palpable, a heavy silence falling over the mines, where only moments before the sounds of toil had echoed. They refused to work, their defiance a direct challenge to the authority of the higher-ranking Anunnaki, particularly Enlil, who was known for his stern and unyielding nature. The political and social climate among the Anunnaki became tense, thick with the scent of impending conflict. The dust from the desert, whipped up by sporadic winds, seemed to mirror the agitation and discord amongst the celestial visitors. This crisis demanded a solution, a new workforce to extract the vital gold needed for their home world. It was a pivotal moment, a turning point that would irrevocably alter the course of Earth's biological history. The sheer scale of the Anunnaki operations and the demands placed upon the Igigi paint a picture of an advanced, industrialized society, albeit one facing its own labor challenges. The textures of the rough mine walls, the smooth, cool metallic tools discarded by the striking Igigi all contribute to this tangible, earthly struggle. Enter Enki, the brilliant, cunning, and often compassionate Anunnaki scientist and lord of wisdom. Along with Ninhursag, the chief medical officer and goddess of creation, they proposed a radical solution: create a primitive worker, a being capable of understanding commands and enduring the harsh labor, thereby relieving the Anunnaki from their arduous duties. This wasn't a spontaneous act of divine creation, but a meticulously planned scientific endeavor. The texts describe a laboratory setting with Enki and Ninhursag experimenting with different genetic materials. The descriptions are astonishingly detailed, speaking of mixing and binding essences. They took the blood of a chosen Anunnaki, identified as Geshtu-i, a sacrificial act designed to imbue the new creation with some essence of their own intelligence and capability. This Anunnaki blood, it is suggested, contained the advanced genetic code that would be combined with the existing hominid species on Earth. The air in their supposed laboratory, perhaps a sterilized cavern or an advanced facility, would have been filled with the subtle hum of alien technology and the faint, almost clinical scent of biological processes. The initial experiments were fraught with trial and error. The texts mention various failed attempts, malformed beings that could not fulfill the intended purpose. This scientific process, with its setbacks and eventual triumphs, mirrors human genetic engineering efforts, albeit on a scale and with a success rate far beyond anything we've achieved. Finally, after diligent effort, Enki and Ninhursag achieved their goal. They successfully combined the Anunnaki essence with the primitive hominid, often theorized as Homo erectus or an early Homo sapiens, to create the Lulu Amelu, or the mixed worker. This new being was called Adamu in some texts, a name strikingly similar to Adam in later religious traditions. The first humans, according to the Sumerian account, were not born of natural evolution, but were engineered, a hybrid species designed for a specific purpose: servitude. The sounds of their early creations, perhaps guttural and confused, would have slowly given way to more coherent attempts at communication as the Anunnaki nurtured their new workforce. The feel of their skin, perhaps different from the earlier hominids, would have been a testament to the transformative power of the Anunnaki's genetic mastery. The implications of this genetic intervention are profound. If true, humanity is not merely an evolved primate, but a genetically engineered hybrid, carrying the DNA of extraterrestrial beings. Our sudden leap in cognitive abilities, our capacity for abstract thought, complex language, and rapid technological advancement, which seems to appear almost spontaneously in the archaeological record, could be explained not by gradual evolution alone, but by a deliberate genetic infusion. This theory challenges Darwinian evolution at its very core, suggesting a missing link that is, in fact, an intelligent design. The ancient Sumerian texts, rather than being fanciful myths, become historical documents detailing a groundbreaking and perhaps morally ambiguous scientific experiment. The fertile Mesopotamian soil, which had seen so many natural cycles of life and death, now bore witness to a form of creation previously unimaginable. The sun, as it arced across the sky, would have shone down on these newly created beings, their eyes perhaps reflecting a spark of their Anunnaki creators, a spark that would eventually lead to their own complex civilizations. The question then arises, what about the Nephilim? This term, appearing in the Hebrew Bible, Genesis 6:1-4, describes giants or fallen ones who were the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men. Many researchers, particularly those who interpret ancient texts literally, see a direct correlation between the Anunnaki and the sons of God. They propose that the Nephilim were the direct progeny of Anunnaki who interbred with human women either before or after the initial creation of the Lulu Amelu. This interpretation adds another layer of complexity to the Anunnaki legacy, suggesting not just genetic engineering for labor, but direct procreation and the establishment of powerful hybrid bloodlines that ruled early humanity. These beings, combining the immense physical stature and intellect of their Anunnaki fathers with the earthly resilience of their human mothers, would have indeed been perceived as demigods, exercising immense power and influence. The biblical narrative of the Nephilim, therefore, aligns chillingly with the Sumerian accounts of divine intervention and even interbreeding, bridging two seemingly disparate ancient traditions. The scent of rain, rare but profound in the Middle East, would have washed over these hybrid beings, perhaps feeling both alien and deeply earthly at the same time. The sound of their footsteps, heavier than ordinary men, might have resonated across the nascent settlements, instilling awe and fear. You've just heard about a potential genetic bridge between gods and men. What's your take? Comment below if this detail blew your mind, and share your own theories. The core motivation for the Anunnaki's prolonged stay on Earth, as meticulously detailed in the Sumerian tablets, revolves singularly around one precious element: gold. This isn't just a shiny metal, it's presented as a vital component for the very survival of their home planet, Nibiru. The narrative, as translated and interpreted by scholars like Zecharia Sitchin, paints a picture of Nibiru, an advanced planet within our solar system facing an existential atmospheric crisis. Its protective layer was depleting, threatening the advanced civilization that thrived there. The solution, arrived at by Anunnaki scientists, was to suspend fine particles of gold in their upper atmosphere to serve as a reflective shield, mirroring the sun's rays and preserving their planet's viability. This scientific necessity, however, presented a monumental logistical challenge: where to find such vast quantities of gold. The answer, discovered through their advanced probes and astronomical observations, was Earth. Our planet, nascent and teeming with geological activity, was a veritable treasure trove of the golden element. The very air around their celestial vehicles as they descended must have shimmered with the anticipation of their grand purpose. The distant hum of their technology, a stark contrast to the quiet rustling of Earth's primeval forests, marked the beginning of a new era. Thus, the journey from Nibiru to Earth wasn't a spiritual pilgrimage, but a desperate, resource-driven mission. The Anunnaki arrived not as benevolent guides, but as sophisticated colonizers. Their initial expeditions, led by figures like Enki, focused on establishing mining operations in what is now southern Africa, a region renowned for its rich gold deposits. Imagine the landscape: vast, untamed wilderness, punctuated by towering mountain ranges and deep valleys, echoing with the calls of exotic wildlife. The air, rich with the scent of unfamiliar flora, and the dry earth must have felt both alien and intensely primordial to these visitors. The Anunnaki, with their advanced technology, swiftly began to alter the terrain, constructing immense mining facilities and processing plants. The ground, once undisturbed for millennia, now vibrated with the unseen energy of their machines, a steady, low thrum that would have been entirely foreign to any indigenous life. The sounds of their advanced tools, perhaps sonic drills or energy beams, would have cut through the primal silence, reshaping the very contours of the planet. These operations required an immense workforce. Initially, the Igigi, the lower-ranking Anunnaki, were tasked with the backbreaking labor. The details of their toil, as described in the Sumerian epics, are strikingly vivid. They dug deep into the earth, carving out subterranean tunnels and open-pit mines, extracting raw gold ore under the scorching sun. The physical demands were immense, leading to exhaustion, resentment, and eventually, the aforementioned rebellion. The sweat on their brow, the dust in their lungs, the constant strain on their bodies. These were not the romanticized struggles of gods, but the harsh realities of labor. The textures of the gold ore, rough and heavy in their gloved hands, represented both the hope for their home world and the misery of their present condition. The glint of raw gold, dull in the excavated earth, belied its cosmic importance. The smell of freshly turned earth, mingled with the faint metallic scent of the ore, filled the air around their encampments. This labor crisis precipitated one of the most pivotal moments in humanity's alleged history: the genetic engineering of the Lulu Amalu. The creation of a primitive worker, a being strong enough to endure the mining conditions and intelligent enough to follow instructions, solved the Anunnaki's labor problem. These early humans, the Adamu, were literally bred for servitude. Their existence was fundamentally tied to the Anunnaki's need for gold. They were not created in a moment of divine inspiration for their own sake, but as a practical, almost industrial solution to an alien logistical dilemma. The very purpose of their initial existence was to serve as a biological machine, an adaptable tool in the Anunnaki's grand scheme. The sound of their rudimentary tools, chipping away at rock, replaced the advanced hum of Anunnaki machinery in some areas, marking a shift in the nature of the workforce. The feeling of rough stone, smoothed by countless human hands, became a testament to their imposed destiny. The vastness of these ancient mining operations is hinted at by researchers who point to ancient, inexplicable mine shafts and geological anomalies in regions like South Africa, some dating back hundreds of thousands of years, predating conventional human capabilities. These sites, often dismissed as natural formations or primitive workings, are re-examined through the lens of Anunnaki involvement, suggesting an organized, sophisticated extraction effort on a scale that defies current historical explanations. The sheer amount of earth moved, the depth of the shafts, and the apparent absence of conventional tools capable of such feats fuel the controversial theories. The landscape itself, scarred by these ancient workings, becomes a silent monument to a forgotten industrial age, an age dominated by beings from another star system. The wind, whistling through these ancient shafts, seems to carry the faint echoes of the Igigi's complaints and the nascent humans' grunts of effort. The economic and political structure of the early Anunnaki settlements on Earth was dictated by this singular goal. The hierarchy was clear. Anu, the supreme ruler, observed from Nibiru, Enlil, the commander overseeing operations, and Enki, the chief scientist, implementing the solutions. Their interactions, often filled with conflict and strategic maneuvers, highlight the complex political landscape of an advanced extraterrestrial civilization. The fate of Earth and its nascent life forms was inextricably linked to the atmospheric salvation of Nibiru. Our planet was a means to an end, a vital cog in a cosmic machine. The very ground beneath our feet, the soil we cultivate, the mountains we marvel at, may all bear the imprints of this ancient alien resource extraction. The scent of ozone, a telltale sign of electrical activity, might have lingered in the air around the Anunnaki's advanced processing plants. The textures of their dwellings, perhaps prefabricated structures or sculpted earth, would have been clean and efficient, a stark contrast to the organic chaos of the wild. The implications for human history are monumental. If our species was indeed created specifically for labor in gold mines, then our earliest civilizations, our first forays into agriculture and urban living, might have been direct consequences of these Anunnaki needs. The knowledge imparted by the Anunnaki of irrigation, metallurgy, astronomy, and writing could be seen as tools designed to make humanity a more efficient, more manageable workforce. We were given just enough understanding to fulfill our purpose, but perhaps not enough to question it. The gold, shimmering deep within the earth, became the silent catalyst for humanity's dramatic and unconventional entry onto the stage of cosmic history. The sun, relentlessly tracking its path across the sky, bore witness to the birth of a species, its destiny inextricably linked to a distant planet and a precious metal. The most audacious claim emanating from the Sumerian texts, and perhaps the most difficult for conventional science to reconcile, is the explicit account of humanity's genetic engineering. This isn't a vague parable. It's a detailed narrative that reads chillingly like a scientific protocol. The catalyst, as previously explored, was the Anunnaki labor crisis, specifically the rebellion of the Igigi, who refused to endure the grueling toil of gold mining. The higher-ranking Anunnaki, assembled in council, faced a profound dilemma. Their mission to save Nibiru was at stake, yet their workforce was in open revolt. The atmosphere in their council chambers, perhaps grand alien structures built into the Mesopotamian landscape, would have been thick with tension, the air still and heavy with the gravity of their decision. The sounds of their deliberations, in their distinct language, would have echoed with the weight of cosmic stakes. It was during this critical juncture that the brilliant and often unorthodox scientist Enki, along with the revered chief medical officer Ninhursag, also known as Ninti or Mama, stepped forward with a daring proposal. Their plan was to create a new species, a primitive worker, a being that possessed enough intelligence to follow instructions, sufficient physical endurance for the mines, and, crucially, a built-in disposition for obedience. This was not about creating companions or spiritual equals. It was a pragmatic, almost cold, engineering solution to a resource problem. The vision they articulated would have been revolutionary, even for an advanced extraterrestrial civilization, pushing the boundaries of genetic manipulation. The light of the twin Mesopotamian rivers, reflecting off the walls of their sophisticated laboratories, would have illuminated instruments and apparatus far beyond human comprehension. The Sumerian texts, particularly the Atrahasis epic, detail the method. Enki and Ninhursag experimented with various materials. They took existing hominid species, the ape-like creatures, earthlings, or primitive beings already present on Earth, and sought to upgrade them. The crucial ingredient for this upgrade was the essence or blood of an Anunnaki. Specifically, the texts mention the sacrifice of an Anunnaki named Geshtui, a god who has reason. His blood was to be mixed with the clay, representing the raw genetic material of the hominid, to create the Adamu. This act of mixing or binding is consistently described not as a mystical transformation, but as a deliberate, laboratory-based process. Imagine the scene. Advanced medical facilities, perhaps sterile and brightly lit, filled with the faint clinical scent of biological agents, contrasting sharply with the raw, earthy smell of the primitive hominid samples. The sounds would have been precise, controlled. The hum of genetic sequencing machines, the gentle hiss of chemical reactions, the focused whispers of Enki and Ninhursag. The initial attempts, as chronicled, were not immediately successful. The texts speak of creatures with incomplete forms, beings without purpose, and unsuccessful models. This trial-and-error approach underscores the scientific nature of the endeavor. It wasn't magic, but a methodical process of experimentation and refinement. Ninhursag, acting as the primary geneticist and birth goddess, worked to perfect the creation, facing frustrations and challenges. The stress of these failures, the pressure to deliver a viable solution, must have been immense. The cool, smooth surfaces of the laboratory equipment would have been a stark contrast to the rough, unpredictable biological materials they were attempting to master. The meticulous attention to detail in the Sumerian accounts of these failures adds a layer of credibility, suggesting an eyewitness narrative rather than a mere myth. Finally, a viable model was achieved. The Lulu Amelu, or mixed worker, often referred to as Adamu, man. These beings possessed enough intelligence to understand and execute complex tasks. They could communicate, and crucially, they could reproduce. The ability to procreate was a critical advancement, ensuring a self-sustaining workforce for the Anunnaki. The texts describe Ninhursag carefully implanting the genetically modified embryos into birth goddesses, or womb goddesses, essentially Anunnaki surrogate mothers, to carry the first generation of Lulu. This further emphasizes the scientific controlled nature of the project. The birth of the first Adamu was not a natural event, but a carefully managed bioengineering triumph. The initial cries of these new beings, a mixture of human and something else, would have been a sound heard only by the Anunnaki creators, a testament to their profound intervention. The texture of their newborn skin, perhaps different in subtle ways from their hominid predecessors, would have been a tangible sign of their engineered origin. The immediate consequence of this creation was the deployment of the Lulu Amelu into the gold mines. They took over the arduous labor, relieving the Igigi and stabilizing the Anunnaki's resource acquisition efforts. Humanity's genesis, therefore, was intrinsically linked to fulfilling an alien economic imperative. We were designed with a purpose, a role to play in a cosmic drama far beyond our initial comprehension. The scent of sweat and earth, once associated with the Igigi, now became the signature of the early human workforce. The sounds of their shovels and picks, rhythmic and persistent, replaced the angry silence of the strike. The long-term implications are staggering. If humanity is indeed a genetically engineered species, a hybrid of terrestrial hominid and extraterrestrial Anunnaki DNA, then our evolutionary history requires a radical re-evaluation. The missing link that confounds anthropologists might not be a purely natural evolutionary step, but a direct genetic intervention. Our rapid development of complex language, abstract thought, and civilization itself might stem not from a slow, arduous process of natural selection, but from a deliberate infusion of advanced genetic code. This theory posits that the Anunnaki bestowed upon us a spark of their own intelligence, making us capable of self-awareness and complex societal structures, albeit initially for their own benefit. This forbidden legacy, the Anunnaki bloodlines within us, would mean that our very essence, our core being, carries the imprint of these primordial rulers. It means that the human story, as we know it, is a carefully curated version, concealing a profound and awe-inspiring truth about our true origins. The sun, casting its long shadows across the early settlements, illuminated beings who walked the earth with a new engineered consciousness, their destiny shaped by unseen hands. As humanity, the Lulu Amelu, multiplied and spread across the Fertile Crescent, fulfilling their intended role as laborers for the Anunnaki, a new phase of their tumultuous relationship began to unfold. The genetic engineering had been successful, perhaps too successful. The human population burgeoned, their numbers growing exponentially across the Mesopotamian plains. The initial goal was a manageable workforce, but soon humanity's sheer fecundity became an unforeseen challenge. The sounds of their multiplying communities, the babble of growing villages, the cries of countless children began to fill the air, echoing across the vast landscape. The scent of their growing settlements, wood smoke, hearth fires, domesticated animals, and human activity became a pervasive presence, signaling their expansion. Enlil, the stern and uncompromising commander of the Anunnaki Earth mission, grew increasingly agitated by humanity's burgeoning numbers and perceived noisiness. The texts describe his frustration with the incessant clamor of humankind, which he found disruptive to the Anunnaki's peace and purpose. He viewed humanity, his creatures, as a nuisance, a messy byproduct of a necessary solution. His temperament was not one given to patience or compassion. He was a leader focused on efficiency and order, and humanity's uncontrolled growth was disrupting that order. The light of the Mesopotamian moon, once peaceful, now seemed to cast a harsh glow on the sprawling human settlements, their activity visible even from afar. The texture of the clay, used to build more and more homes, seemed to sag under the weight of exponential growth. His solution was drastic, a purge. Enlil proposed to annihilate humanity through a series of natural disasters, plagues, famines, and ultimately a great deluge. He saw this as a necessary culling, a way to reset the balance and remove the noise of human existence. The debates within the Anunnaki Council were fierce, illustrating the deep divisions among them regarding humanity's fate. Enlil's faction, primarily the higher-ranking Anunnaki concerned with order and the Nibiru mission, largely supported his grim proposal. The air in their council chambers would have been charged with heavy emotions, the weight of a species' survival hanging in the balance. The sounds of their alien dialect, usually authoritative and precise, now carried undertones of heated argument. However, Enki, the creator of humanity and often humanity's advocate, vehemently opposed Enlil's plan. Despite creating humanity for labor, Enki had developed a degree of attachment, perhaps even paternal affection, for his creations. He saw their potential, their burgeoning ingenuity, and felt a moral responsibility for their survival. The ethical dilemma was immense. Was it right to destroy a species simply because it had become inconvenient? This philosophical struggle within the Anunnaki pantheon is one of the most compelling aspects of the Sumerian narrative, showcasing their complex morality and internal conflicts. Enki's concern for humanity was a stark contrast to Enlil's cold utilitarianism, highlighting a profound divergence in their perspectives. The soft, reflective glow of the polished surfaces in Enki's laboratory might have seemed to offer a sanctuary for his thoughts, a place where ethical considerations could truly be weighed. When Enlil's plan for the Great Deluge was formalized and agreed upon by the Anunnaki Council, with Anu's implicit approval, Enki was sworn to secrecy. He was forbidden from warning humanity. However, Enki, ever the rebel and humanitarian, found a loophole. He approached a pious human named Utnapishtim, known as Noah in the Hebrew Bible, not directly, but through a reed wall, speaking to the wall, knowing Utnapishtim would overhear. In this coded message, Enki revealed the impending catastrophe and provided precise instructions for building a large, watertight vessel capable of carrying his family, essential animals, and craftsmen. The secret conversation, a hushed whisper carried on the wind, would have been almost imperceptible, a clandestine act of defiance against a cosmic decree. The scent of the reeds, earthy and fresh, would have filled the small dwelling where Utnapishtim overheard his savior's instructions. The story of Utnapishtim, or Noah, meticulously constructing the ark, gathering the necessary provisions, and enduring the skeptical mockery of his peers, is a testament to his faith in Enki's warning. The rains came, eventually torrential and unending, submerging the entire world beneath a vast, turbulent ocean. The sounds of the storm, the furious wind, the pounding rain, the crashing waves, would have been deafening, a terrifying symphony of destruction. The world, once teeming with life and human settlements, was reduced to a swirling expanse of water. The texture of the rough timber of the ark, slick with rain and spray, would have been the only solid refuge in a world turned liquid. The cold, damp air would have pressed in, a constant reminder of the world's obliteration. Crucially, the preservation of Utnapishtim and his family meant the preservation of particular human bloodlines. These were not random survivors. Utnapishtim was chosen specifically by Enki. It implies that certain genetic traits, perhaps those deemed most valuable or pure, were deliberately saved. This act ensures the continuity of the Anunnaki's initial creation, a partial victory for Enki's compassion and a subtle defiance of Enlil's decree of total annihilation. After the floodwaters receded and the ark came to rest, humanity was given a second chance. The Anunnaki, upon discovering that some humans had survived, were initially furious, especially Enlil. But Enki once again intervened, advocating for humanity's continued existence, arguing that a species created by them should not be so easily discarded. The scent of fresh, rain-washed earth, mingled with the lingering smell of damp wood, would have been the first sense of a new world, a cleansed canvas for humanity's second act. This event, the Great Deluge, serves as a monumental turning point. It demonstrates the Anunnaki's power, their internal divisions, and Enki's role as humanity's protector. More importantly, it highlights the deliberate preservation of specific bloodlines, ensuring that the genetic legacy of the Anunnaki, already woven into humanity, would continue. This wasn't merely a survival story, it was a curated event designed to allow certain genetic strains to persevere and rebuild. The light of the rising sun, piercing through the post-flood clouds, illuminated a world reborn, but a world whose destiny was still inextricably linked to its otherworldly creators and the forbidden legacy they had imparted. If Enki hadn't intervened, would we even be here? This dramatic twist changes everything. Let me know in the comments. Do you think Enki was a benevolent creator or just a pragmatic scientist protecting his investment? The Anunnaki were not a monolithic entity. They were a complex hierarchical society with distinct personalities, rivalries, and spheres of influence. Understanding this celestial pantheon, as described in the Sumerian tablets, is crucial to grasping the full scope of their forbidden legacy on Earth. Their structure mirrored that of an advanced, powerful monarchy transplanted onto a nascent planet. The echoes of their authority permeated every aspect of early human existence, from the laws they imparted to the agricultural techniques they taught. The air of ancient Mesopotamia, heavy with the dust of centuries, also carried the almost palpable weight of their cosmic presence, a silent testament to their supreme power. At the apex of this pantheon was Anu, the Sky Father, the ultimate sovereign residing on Nibiru, the Anunnaki home planet. He was the distant supreme authority, the ultimate arbiter, whose decisions were final. While he rarely descended to Earth, his influence was pervasive, his word binding. He represented the celestial origin, the ultimate source of Anunnaki power and legitimacy. His presence was felt more as a cosmic force, an omnipresent overseer, rather than an active daily participant in earthly affairs. The vastness of the night sky, studded with countless stars, was a constant reminder of Anu's distant realm, a universe far beyond human grasp. The quiet hum of the universe itself seemed to resonate with his silent decree. Beneath Anu, the two most influential and often conflicting figures were Enlil and Enki. Enlil, whose name means Lord of Command, was the executive head of the Earth mission. He was depicted as stern, unyielding, and focused on discipline and order. His authority was absolute on Earth, and he was responsible for the logistical and operational success of the gold mining enterprise. Enlil was the traditionalist, the one who enforced the laws of Nibiru and demanded strict adherence from both the Anunnaki and humanity. His interactions with humanity were often harsh, driven by his pragmatic view of them as a workforce. He was the one who decreed the Great Deluge, viewing humanity as a noisy nuisance interfering with the Anunnaki's primary mission. The sounds of his pronouncements, powerful and authoritative, would have reverberated through the early human settlements, instilling awe and fear. The texture of the harsh, sun-baked earth beneath his feet mirrored his unyielding nature. Enki, Lord of Earth and Lord of Wisdom, was Enlil's half-brother and constant rival. He was the chief scientist, the master geneticist, and often humanity's advocate. Enki was depicted as more benevolent, cunning, and resourceful. It was he who conceived and executed the genetic engineering of humanity, and it was he who defied Enlil to save Utnapishtim from the deluge. Enki was associated with freshwater, knowledge, and magic, often acting as a bridge between the Anunnaki and humanity, teaching them agriculture, crafts, and the arts of civilization. His complex personality, marked by both scientific brilliance and a rebellious compassion, made him a pivotal figure in humanity's early history. The subtle scent of fresh water, mingled with the fertile earth, was his signature, a promise of life and knowledge. The light reflecting off the smooth, cool surfaces of his laboratory tools seemed to encapsulate his scientific genius. Then there was Ninhursag, also known as Ninti, Lady Life, or Mama, the chief medical officer and goddess of creation. She was crucial in the genetic engineering project, working alongside Enki to craft the Lulu Amelu. She was seen as the mother of humanity, responsible for bringing them into existence. Her role was not merely technical, but deeply creative and nurturing, even if the initial purpose was servitude. Her presence added a dimension of biological innovation to the Anunnaki's scientific prowess. The soft, caring sounds of her whispers during the creation process, if recorded, would have been a stark contrast to Enlil's commands. The texture of soft clay, molded by her hands, literally shaped humanity. Other significant Anunnaki figures included Nana Sin, Enlil's son, the moon god, overseer of the city of Ur; Utu Shamash, Nana's son, the sun god, dispenser of justice, often depicted with rays emanating from his shoulders; Inanna Ishtar, Utu's twin sister, goddess of love, war, and fertility, a complex and powerful figure who played a significant role in many Sumerian epics, often with a fierce independence. Her opulent attire, imagined in vibrant colors, would have shimmered under the Mesopotamian sun, reflecting her powerful persona. Ishkur Adad, Enlil's other son, the weather god, associated with storms and rain. This elaborate family tree, complete with alliances, feuds, and power struggles, formed the political landscape of Earth under Anunnaki rule. Their rivalries often had direct consequences for humanity, as different Anunnaki factions supported or opposed human endeavors. The constant interplay between their divine, yet very human-like personalities shaped the destiny of an entire planet. The very fabric of Sumerian society, its laws, its rituals, and its understanding of the cosmos was built upon the framework of this Anunnaki pantheon. The sounds of daily life, the rustling of reeds, the distant bleating of sheep, all played out against the backdrop of these powerful extraterrestrial rulers. The scent of incense, burning in their temples, was an offering to these beings, whose presence was undeniable. The concept of divine right that characterized early human monarchies can be directly traced to this Anunnaki influence. Early kings, particularly in Sumeria and later in Egypt, didn't just claim to be favored by the gods. They often claimed direct ancestral lineage. They posited that their blood, their very DNA, contained a special sacred essence passed down from these celestial rulers. This wasn't merely a symbolic claim. It was a literal assertion of genetic superiority, a direct connection to the forbidden legacy of the primordial rulers. The opulent garments and elaborate headdresses worn by these early kings, shimmering with gold and precious stones, were visual markers of their perceived divine connection. The light of the sun, reflecting off these regal accoutrements, symbolized their divinely sanctioned authority. This belief cemented their authority, making any challenge to their rule a challenge to the gods themselves. It transformed mere governance into a sacred trust, passed down through carefully guarded bloodlines. The texture of the polished stone of their palaces, cool and majestic, was a physical manifestation of their authority, echoing the power of their divine ancestors. The legacy of these Anunnaki figures is not just found in ancient texts. It's woven into the very fabric of our mythological archetypes, our religious narratives, and our enduring fascination with beings from the stars. Their story, fragmented and controversial as it may be, offers a radical alternative to our understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe. It asks us to consider that the gods of old were not ethereal spirits, but powerful flesh and blood beings who came to Earth with a specific agenda, and in doing so, irrevocably shaped the destiny of humanity through genetic intervention and direct governance. The wind, whispering through the ruins of ancient temples, still carries the faint echoes of their names, a reminder of their enduring influence. If these Anunnaki were real, then our concept of gods needs a total overhaul. What do you think their true intentions were? Join the conversation and tell me your thoughts in the comments below. The transition from a direct Anunnaki presence on Earth to the establishment of human kingship, claiming divine right, is one of the most intriguing and often overlooked aspects of the forbidden legacy. According to Sumerian accounts, as humanity multiplied and developed under Anunnaki tutelage, the direct, day-to-day governance by the celestial visitors became increasingly impractical. The Anunnaki, primarily focused on their gold extraction mission and the political complexities of their own internal rivalries, began to delegate authority. This wasn't a sudden abdication, but a gradual process of empowerment, where chosen humans were elevated to positions of immense power, acting as intermediaries between the gods and the common people. The air of these early royal courts, perhaps within the impressive ziggurats of Ur or Uruk, would have been thick with incense and the hushed reverence of subjects approaching their divinely appointed rulers. The sounds would have been ceremonial, the chanting of priests, the solemn pronouncements of the king, the rustling of fine linen garments. The first human kings were not chosen randomly. The Sumerian king list, an ancient manuscript detailing the reigns of kings from the dawn of time, speaks of a time before the flood, when kingship descended from heaven. This phrase is highly suggestive, implying a direct investiture of power from the Anunnaki. These early monarchs, therefore, didn't just claim divine favor, they claimed a tangible, inherited connection. They were the chosen ones, the shepherds of mankind, appointed by the Anunnaki to maintain order, administer justice, and ensure the continued productivity of the human workforce. Their authority was absolute, stemming from a source far beyond earthly politics. The light of the sun, filtering through the high windows of royal palaces, illuminated the intricate symbols of their power. Golden scepters, elaborate crowns, and ceremonial robes adorned with precious stones and rich embroidery. The textures of these regal accoutrements, smooth gold, shimmering silk, cool, hard gems, would have been a constant reminder of their elevated status. This concept of divine right wasn't merely a religious or ideological construct. It was, in the context of the Anunnaki narrative, a literal claim of genetic lineage. The kings believed and taught their subjects to believe that they carried the blood of the Anunnaki in their veins. They were descendants, either directly or through carefully chosen lines, of the gods who from heaven to earth came. This forbidden bloodline conferred upon them not just authority, but also a perceived superior intellect, strength, and an intrinsic right to rule. It positioned them as the genetic inheritors of the primordial rulers, making their reign indisputable. The very ground beneath their royal thrones, often constructed from imported rare woods or finely carved stone, seemed to hum with the weight of this extraordinary legacy. The scent of exotic perfumes and offerings to the gods mingled with the everyday odors of their bustling cities, creating a unique atmosphere of reverence and power. The Anunnaki, particularly Enki, are said to have established the first royal lines, teaching humanity the arts of governance, justice, and societal organization. They provided the framework for cities, laws, and the complex administrative systems that characterized early Sumerian civilization. This wasn't just mentorship, it was the active shaping of human society to ensure its stability and continued service to the Anunnaki's golden agenda. The laws, meticulously inscribed on cuneiform tablets like the Code of Ur-Nammu, were presented not as human inventions, but as divine mandates handed down through the chosen kings. The sounds of scribes carefully pressing their reeds into wet clay to record these laws were the sounds of an Anunnaki-influenced legal system taking root. The physical appearance of these early kings and queens often mirrored certain Anunnaki depictions: powerful physiques, sometimes elongated features, and an aura of immense authority. While artistic representations can be symbolic, The consistent portrayal of rulers with distinctive features across various ancient cultures adds another layer to the bloodline theory. These characteristics were not just aesthetic choices, they were seen as physical manifestations of their celestial heritage. The opulent clothing and jewelry, often crafted from gold, were not merely symbols of wealth, but also served as a visible connection to the very substance the Anunnaki craved. The glint of gold, worn by kings, was a constant, shimmering reminder of their extraordinary origins. The concept of a privileged ruling class descended from gods became a cornerstone of ancient civilizations worldwide. From the pharaohs of Egypt, who claimed direct lineage from Ra and Osiris, to the emperors of Japan, whose ancestry traces back to the sun goddess Amaterasu, the idea of a divine bloodline conferring the right to rule is a recurring motif across disparate cultures. This global phenomenon, often dismissed as a universal psychological need for legitimate authority, takes on a far more literal and unsettling meaning when viewed through the lens of the Anunnaki narrative. It suggests a common thread, a shared, forbidden legacy disseminated from a single extraterrestrial source. The majestic structures of ancient Egypt, their towering pyramids and meticulously carved temples, were not just monuments to human ingenuity, but perhaps a testament to the knowledge and architectural principles imparted by Anunnaki-descended rulers. The dry desert air carried the faint, earthy scent of these ancient stones, impregnated with the stories of god-kings. The implications are profound. If certain individuals and families have indeed carried this Anunnaki bloodline through millennia, then the history of global power, of empires rising and falling, of secret societies and covert agendas might be fundamentally different from what we've been taught. It suggests a continuous, inherited influence, shaping human destiny from behind the veiled curtain of traditional history. The royal families of Europe, the powerful financial dynasties, the influential political figures, could some of them, consciously or unconsciously, be inheritors of this ancient genetic legacy, still subtly guiding the course of human civilization? The very concept challenges our understanding of meritocracy and self-determination, suggesting that some are born to rule, not by divine will in a spiritual sense, but by a very literal biological inheritance. The sounds of modern statecraft, the solemn oaths of office, the diplomatic negotiations might all be distant echoes of the Anunnaki's initial delegation of power, a power that has simply adapted and evolved with the times, but never truly relinquished its original source. The cold, impersonal surfaces of modern government buildings, designed to convey authority, reflect a legacy that began in the sun-baked mud bricks of ancient Sumer. The influence of the Anunnaki and the concept of their bloodlines forming the basis of early royal authority extends far beyond the immediate confines of Mesopotamia. When we examine the remarkable parallels between seemingly disparate ancient civilizations, separated by vast geographical distances and oceans, a curious pattern emerges, hinting at a shared, perhaps extraterrestrial origin of advanced knowledge. This isn't just about coincidental similarities. It's about fundamental breakthroughs in architecture, astronomy, metallurgy, and social organization that appear almost simultaneously in cultures that, according to conventional history, had no contact. The very air of these ancient sites, from the scorching sands of Egypt to the humid jungles of Mesoamerica, seems to vibrate with a forgotten energy, a whisper of common tutelage. Consider ancient Egypt, a civilization that to this day baffles scholars with the sophistication of its engineering and astronomical understanding. The construction of the Great Pyramids, with their unparalleled precision and monumental scale, remains an enigma. How did a Bronze Age civilization, ostensibly relying on brute force and rudimentary tools, achieve such architectural marvels? The alignment of the pyramids with celestial bodies, The intricate knowledge of geometry and surveying, and the sheer logistical effort involved, have led many to question whether conventional explanations suffice. The pharaohs, of course, claimed direct lineage from the gods, often depicting themselves with an almost superhuman stature and wisdom. They were the god kings, mediators between the divine and the human, their authority unquestioned because it was believed to be inherited from celestial beings. The light of the Egyptian sun, harsh and unrelenting, illuminated these colossal structures, making them appear as if they were built by hands far grander than human. The scent of dry desert air, mingled with the faint, earthy smell of ancient stone, seemed to carry the secrets of their construction. Across the globe, in the lush green heart of Mesoamerica, civilizations like the Maya and the Aztecs also demonstrated an astonishing grasp of astronomy, mathematics, and intricate calendrical systems. Their pyramids, while different in form from the Egyptian ones, shared a similar monumental scale and a profound connection to celestial cycles. The Maya, in particular, developed an incredibly accurate calendar and an advanced understanding of planetary movements, seemingly out of nowhere. Their creation myths often spoke of feathered serpents or sky gods who descended to Earth, bringing knowledge and establishing the foundations of their societies. These figures, like Quetzalcoatl, were depicted as powerful, wise beings who taught agriculture, writing, and the arts of civilization. The humid air of the jungle, thick with the scent of tropical flora and damp earth, enveloped these ancient cities, their stone structures rising majestically from the dense foliage, silent witnesses to an otherworldly legacy. The sounds of exotic birds and rustling leaves provided the soundtrack to their profound astronomical observations. The Indus Valley Civilization, another contemporary of early Mesopotamia and Egypt, displayed equally perplexing advancements. Cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa featured sophisticated urban planning, advanced drainage systems, and standardized weights and measures, indicating a highly organized society. Yet their origins and the source of their knowledge remain largely a mystery. While explicit narratives of sky gods are less pronounced than in other cultures, the sudden appearance of such a complex, well-organized civilization without clear precursors raises questions about external influences. The warm, dry air of the Indus Valley, carrying the scent of cumin and other spices, would have filled the meticulously planned streets of these ancient metropolises. The textures of their uniform bricks, precisely laid, spoke of a knowledge far beyond rudimentary building techniques. What explains these uncanny parallels? The sheer scale of monumental architecture, the precise astronomical alignments, the sudden emergence of sophisticated urban planning, writing, and metallurgy in geographically distant locations, all appearing without a clear evolutionary path, points towards a common catalyst. The theory of Anunnaki influence and the dissemination of their knowledge through their hybridized bloodlines offers a compelling, albeit controversial explanation. It suggests that these primordial rulers, through their direct descendants or chosen intermediaries, initiated civilization across the globe, seeding various cultures with the fundamental tools necessary for complex societal development. The knowledge wasn't organically developed in isolation. It was imparted, often with a specific purpose, tied to their broader agenda of maintaining Earth as a resource outpost. The common threads are too numerous to be dismissed as mere coincidence. The deluge myths found in almost every ancient culture, the recurring motif of sky gods descending to teach humanity, the sudden appearance of kingship claiming divine authority, and the perplexing advancements in science and engineering. These are not disparate threads, but carefully woven strands of a single grand narrative, a forbidden legacy passed down through generations. The very light of the stars, which guided the Anunnaki to Earth, also shone down upon these diverse civilizations, each reflecting a facet of the knowledge imparted by their celestial teachers. The sounds of ancient languages, distinct yet echoing similar concepts of divine intervention, would have filled the air across continents, narrating a shared origin story. The enduring mystery lies in understanding the full extent of this global influence. If the Anunnaki truly seeded civilization and established ruling bloodlines in these various cultures, then the true history of humanity is far more interconnected and profoundly influenced by extraterrestrial intelligence than we could ever imagine. Our achievements, our grandest structures, our deepest philosophical insights might all carry the subtle imprint of these primordial rulers, a testament to their forbidden legacy that continues to resonate in the ruins of our past and the unanswered questions of our present. The feeling of ancient stone, cool and worn by time, holds the silent stories of a world shaped by hands not entirely of this earth. As millennia passed and human civilization flourished under the distant yet still palpable influence of the Anunnaki, a shift occurred in the dynamics of their relationship with Earth. The grand drama of their direct intervention, their genetic experiments, and their role as primordial rulers gradually faded from immediate view, replaced by a new phase, the alleged Great Betrayal or strategic retreat. The Sumerian texts, which had so meticulously documented their arrival, their gold mining, their internal conflicts, and their role in creating humanity, become less direct about their ultimate departure. The narrative becomes more ambiguous, hinting at a withdrawal rather than a definitive dramatic exit. The air over Mesopotamia, once charged with the presence of celestial visitors, slowly began to revert to the familiar scent of sun-baked earth, human activity, and the occasional dust storm. The motivations for this supposed withdrawal are multifaceted, as interpreted by various researchers. One prominent theory suggests that the Anunnaki's primary mission, to extract gold for Nibiru's atmosphere, was eventually completed, or at least reached a point where their direct, large-scale presence was no longer necessary. Perhaps sufficient gold reserves had been accumulated, or alternative solutions were found. If their purpose was fulfilled, their continued overt presence would simply be an unnecessary drain on resources and attention. The sounds of their advanced machinery, once a constant hum, faded into the distant memory of ancient myths, replaced by the simpler sounds of human agriculture and growing cities. Another perspective points to the escalating internal conflicts among the Anunnaki themselves. The rivalries between Enlil and Enki, and the ambitious machinations of other Anunnaki figures like Inanna Ishtar, created a volatile political climate. These disputes, sometimes escalating into what some interpret as atomic warfare, like the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, often attributed to Anunnaki weaponry in some interpretations, may have made Earth an increasingly unstable and dangerous outpost for them. Retreating might have been a strategic decision to avoid further internecine conflict and to preserve their own civilization. The harsh light of a destructive weapon, imagined through ancient eyes, would have been a terrifying spectacle, leaving behind scars on the land and trauma in human memory. The smell of burning earth and desolation would have lingered long after such conflicts. A third theory posits a deliberate strategy of allowing humanity to develop autonomously, but under a hidden, guided hand. The Anunnaki had engineered humanity for labor, taught them the basics of civilization, and established ruling bloodlines. They might have decided that humanity had matured enough to manage itself, yet still require a subtle, long-term influence. This could be viewed as a betrayal from humanity's perspective, suddenly left without their direct creators and guides, forced to forge their own path. Yet, from the Anunnaki's viewpoint, it might have been a calculated retreat, leaving behind a carefully crafted legacy and a network of influence through their chosen bloodlines. The textures of human-made artifacts, becoming more refined and complex, would have been a sign of their growing independence, yet still within the parameters set by their creators. The Sumerian texts, as they progress, shift from descriptions of direct interactions to accounts of humans, appealing to distant, often inaccessible gods. The gods were still revered, still invoked, but their physical presence became increasingly rare. They ascended back to the heavens or retreated to hidden enclaves, becoming mythical figures rather than active rulers. This gradual withdrawal created a spiritual and political vacuum which humanity quickly filled by elevating their Anunnaki-descended kings to supreme, almost divine status. The responsibility for governance, for prosperity, and for justice now fell squarely on human shoulders, albeit guided by the divine laws and wisdom imparted by their former overlords. The sounds of human prayers, once directed at visible gods, now ascended into the vast, empty sky, hoping for a distant response. This transition marked a crucial turning point in humanity's self-perception. We began to truly believe in our own autonomy, our own capacity for self-governance and innovation. Yet the forbidden legacy of the Anunnaki bloodlines remained. The royal families, the priestly castes, and later the elite dynasties continued to claim their unique status through their inherited connection to these primordial rulers. This hidden thread of influence ensured that even in their physical absence, the Anunnaki's legacy continued to shape the direction of human civilization. The opulent palaces of human kings, built with materials and techniques taught by the Anunnaki, became the new centers of power, reflecting a borrowed majesty. The scent of exotic spices and fine wines served in these palaces would have mingled with the subtle, enduring aroma of ancient power. The notion of a forbidden legacy becomes even more poignant here. The knowledge of humanity's true origins, of its genetic engineering, and of the direct influence of extraterrestrial beings slowly morphed into myth, allegory, or was actively suppressed. This suppression, whether intentional by the Anunnaki themselves or by their human descendants protecting their power, ensured that the vast majority of humanity remained unaware of the cosmic game in which they were merely pawns. The truth became forbidden, relegated to whispers, secret societies, and esoteric knowledge. The light of the rising sun, illuminating a world now seemingly free of its celestial overlords, also cast long, deceptive shadows, concealing the profound truth of humanity's engineered past and its continuing subtle guidance. The texture of old scrolls and tablets, handled by a select few, held the secrets of this strategic retreat, a truth too powerful for common understanding. The great betrayal aspect implies that humanity was left to its own devices, perhaps with a pre-programmed destiny, while the Anunnaki moved on. Yet, the strategic retreat suggests a more calculated move, leaving behind a carefully curated system of control and influence that persists to this day through the bloodlines they established. This leaves us with a lingering question. Did the Anunnaki truly depart forever, or did they simply shift their mode of interaction, becoming silent observers, pulling strings from behind the cosmic curtain, patiently awaiting a future return or a new phase of their grand, millennia-spanning experiment? The very air we breathe carries the answer, if only we knew how to listen. If the Anunnaki indeed strategically retreated, leaving humanity to manage its own affairs, yet retaining a subtle influence through their established bloodlines, then the question naturally arises: how was this forbidden legacy preserved across countless generations? The answer, many believe, lies in the formation and perpetuation of secret societies, esoteric orders, and veiled organizations that have diligently guarded this profound knowledge for millennia. These groups, often operating in the shadows, far removed from the public eye, became the custodians of humanity's true origins, the inheritors of Anunnaki wisdom, and the maintainers of the privileged bloodlines. The air in their clandestine meeting places, whether ancient temples, medieval castles, or modern boardrooms, would have been charged with an almost palpable sense of secrecy and power. The sounds would have been hushed, reverent, the rustling of ancient texts, the soft murmur of ritualistic chants, or the precise clicking of modern communication devices. From the ashes of direct Anunnaki rule, the priestly castes and the royal houses became the initial guardians of this knowledge. They were the direct beneficiaries of the Anunnaki's teachings and their genetic legacy. The meticulous records kept in the temples of Sumer and Egypt were not just religious texts. They were historical archives, detailing the interactions with the gods and the origins of their own power. As civilizations rose and fell, this knowledge, deemed too potent or disruptive for the masses, began to be compartmentalized and protected. The light of torches, flickering in the hidden chambers beneath ancient temples, illuminated hieroglyphs and cuneiform, revealing truths that only the initiated could comprehend. The scent of ancient papyrus, mingled with the faint, earthy aroma of underground chambers, carried the weight of ages. Over time, this guardianship evolved. Groups like the Gnostics, the Knights Templar, the Rosicrucians, and later various Masonic lodges and other influential societies are often cited as potential inheritors of these Anunnaki secrets. While their public facades spoke of philosophy, spirituality, or charity, their deeper esoteric teachings, reserved for the highest echelons, are theorized to contain fragments of the forbidden legacy. These societies acted as conduits, passing down not just philosophical tenets, but potentially historical truths about humanity's engineered past, the existence of the Anunnaki, and the significance of their bloodlines. The texture of their ceremonial robes, often rich and ornate, would have been a tactile symbol of their elevated status and their guardianship of profound secrets. The methods of preservation were varied. Encoded texts, oral traditions passed down through initiations, symbolic architecture, and carefully curated rituals. The symbolism embedded in ancient art, architecture, and religious iconography, often dismissed as mere myth or artistic expression, is reinterpreted by some researchers as coded messages, revealing truths about advanced technology, extraterrestrial contact, and genetic manipulation. The all-seeing eye, the winged disc, the serpent, these motifs recurring across diverse cultures and throughout history, could be subtle visual reminders of the Anunnaki's presence and influence, understood only by those initiated into the true meaning. The sounds of cryptic hymns, sung in ancient languages, might have held layers of meaning, revealing truths to those with ears to hear. Crucially, these secret societies weren't just about preserving information, they were also about preserving influence. Many of these groups attracted and continue to attract individuals from the upper echelons of society: royalty, nobility, wealthy merchants, influential politicians, and prominent intellectuals. If the Anunnaki bloodlines conferred a natural predisposition for leadership and intelligence, then these individuals would naturally gravitate towards positions of power and towards organizations that shared and protected their unique heritage. The perpetuation of these bloodlines through strategic marriages and careful lineage tracking ensured that the forbidden legacy wasn't just a historical curiosity, but a living, breathing force influencing world events. The opulent interiors of their modern meeting places, perhaps grand halls in Washington, D.C. or London, would be adorned with symbols of their hidden power, reflecting the subtle glow of chandeliers. The scent of polished wood and old leather would pervade these spaces, carrying the gravity of their purpose. The global reach of these societies further underscores the theory of a widespread, coordinated influence. From the ancient mystery schools of Egypt to the secret fraternities of medieval Europe and the influential clubs of the American elite, the threads of these secret organizations seem to weave across continents and centuries. Their interconnectedness suggests a common underlying purpose that transcends national boundaries and individual political agendas. This common purpose, according to the Anunnaki bloodline theory, is the continued, subtle guidance of human civilization, perhaps towards a destiny preordained by the primordial rulers. The feeling of rough, ancient stone in a hidden passage, or the smooth, cool surface of a secret vault door, represents the physical barriers protecting these profound secrets. The implications are chilling. If true, it means that much of human history, particularly the decisions that have shaped nations and determined the course of empires, has not been driven by the collective will of the people, or even by transparent political processes, but by a hidden hand, by a select few guarding a forbidden truth and operating according to an ancient extraterrestrial agenda. It suggests that the elites of the world are not merely wealthy or powerful by chance, but by design, by inheritance, and by the careful preservation of a genetic legacy that connects them directly to the gods who from heaven to earth came. The light of our modern world, with all its technological marvels and democratic aspirations, might still be subtly filtered through the ancient, secretive lens of these Anunnaki-descended guardians, silently pulling strings from the shadows, ensuring their forbidden legacy endures. The sounds of encrypted communication and hushed conversations, if ever fully revealed, would unveil a vast, intricate network of influence spanning the globe and centuries. This idea of secret societies preserving ancient knowledge is wild, right? What hidden truths do you think they're really protecting? Drop your most intriguing theories in the comments and let's explore this rabbit hole together. The concept of Anunnaki bloodlines, once relegated to ancient Sumerian tablets and esoteric whispers, takes a truly unsettling turn when examined through the lens of modern conspiracy theories. These theories propose that the descendants of the primordial rulers are not confined to the annals of history or the secretive lodges of the past, but actively exist and wield immense influence in the contemporary world. This isn't just about historical curiosity. It's about a living, breathing, forbidden legacy that purportedly shapes global politics, finance, and culture from the highest echelons of power. The air in the corridors of power, whether in Washington, D.C., London, or Brussels, is often thick with unspoken assumptions and hidden agendas, hinting at forces beyond the visible. The sounds of global markets, the hushed conversations in exclusive clubs, the polished rhetoric of political leaders, all are reinterpreted as part of a grander, hidden orchestration. The central tenet of this modern interpretation is that certain prominent families and dynasties, often referred to as the global elite, trace their ancestry back to these ancient, Anunnaki-infused royal lines. These aren't just families of old money. They are families whose influence spans centuries, shaping major historical events, controlling vast multinational corporations, and orchestrating geopolitical shifts. They are the names that appear consistently at the top of wealth lists, in the inner circles of international organizations, and at the helm of powerful institutions. The theory posits that their enduring power and uncanny ability to maintain control through generations is not merely due to wealth or strategic acumen, but to an inherited genetic predisposition, a divine spark from their Anunnaki forebears that grants them superior intellect, strategic foresight, and an innate drive for dominance. The light of digital screens, illuminating financial data and news headlines, seems to cast a subtle, almost imperceptible glow on the hidden architects of our modern world. Researchers, particularly those in alternative history and conspiracy circles, meticulously trace these bloodlines through genealogical records, historical documents, and even symbolic markers. They point to the interconnectedness of European royal families, the founding families of powerful American institutions, and the key players in global financial networks. The intermarriage within these elite circles is seen not just as a means of consolidating wealth and power, but as a deliberate strategy to preserve and concentrate the Anunnaki genetic heritage. The goal, according to these theories, is to maintain the purity of this bloodline, ensuring that the legacy of primordial rule continues uninterrupted, albeit in a covert fashion. The scent of old money, a subtle blend of expensive cigars, fine leather, and exclusive perfumes, pervades the environments of these families, a tangible aura of inherited privilege. The influence of these alleged Anunnaki bloodlines is said to manifest in various ways. In the political sphere, they are believed to manipulate elections, dictate foreign policy, and shape legislative agendas, often through think tanks, lobbyists, and powerful non-governmental organizations. Their decisions, presented to the public as democratic choices or economic necessities, are, in this view, part of a larger, long-term plan designed to consolidate their power and further an ancient hidden agenda. The sounds of political speeches, carefully crafted and delivered, are seen as mere echoes of a narrative dictated by higher, unseen forces. Economically, these families are theorized to control the global financial system, from central banks to major investment firms. They orchestrate economic booms and busts, control resource distribution, and influence technological development, all to serve their own interests and the perceived agenda of their Anunnaki ancestors. The vast accumulation of wealth and resources is not just for personal luxury. It's a tool for control, a means to exert pervasive influence over the entire human populace. The crisp rustle of freshly printed currency, the subtle hum of servers managing trillions of dollars, all become part of the background noise of their immense global orchestration. Culturally, their influence is thought to extend to media, education, and entertainment, subtly shaping public opinion, values, and beliefs. They promote narratives that reinforce existing power structures, distract the masses from deeper truths, and suppress any information that might expose their hidden lineage or the true nature of humanity's origins. The constant stream of news, the pervasive presence of brand logos, some of which are interpreted as ancient symbols, and the subtle messages in popular media are all seen as elements of a carefully managed information environment. The texture of glossy magazines featuring the faces of the global elite becomes a subtle medium for their pervasive influence. The existence of powerful, exclusive organizations like the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, and the Council on Foreign Relations, where world leaders, financial magnates, and media moguls convene in secret, fuels these theories. These gatherings are not seen as mere discussion forums, but as coordination centers where the Anunnaki-descended elite consolidate their strategies and direct the global narrative. The hushed, secretive nature of these meetings, the lack of transparency, only adds to the mystique and the suspicion that something far grander and more profound is being discussed behind closed doors. The feeling of opulence and exclusivity in these venues, from the plush carpets to the imposing architecture, reinforces the sense of a hidden power at play. This forbidden legacy, the existence of Anunnaki bloodlines in positions of modern power, paints a deeply unsettling picture of human autonomy. It suggests that our world is not truly free, that our choices are not entirely our own, and that a small intergenerational group, driven by an ancient non-human agenda, continues to guide our collective destiny. It's a conspiracy theory that challenges the very notion of self-determination, suggesting that humanity is still, in many ways, an engineered species under the subtle, pervasive influence of its primordial rulers. The sun, setting over our modern cities, casts long, enigmatic shadows, obscuring the true architects of our global landscape, leaving us to wonder if the reins of power are truly in human hands. Building upon the unsettling notion of Anunnaki bloodlines permeating modern power structures, the globalist agenda emerges as a central, deeply controversial aspect of this forbidden legacy. Proponents of this theory suggest that the ultimate goal of these Anunnaki-descended elites is not merely personal wealth or national power, but the establishment of a centralized, unified global system of control. This is often framed as a new world order, a planetary governance structure designed to consolidate authority, homogenize cultures, and ultimately manage humanity as a single compliant entity. The air in the abstract corridors of global institutions, from the United Nations to the World Economic Forum, is, for theorists, thick with this unspoken ambition, a subtle hum of a future orchestrated by unseen hands. The sounds of international diplomacy, often portrayed as noble efforts for cooperation, are reinterpreted as steps towards a more profound, centralized dominion. The motivation behind this globalist agenda, according to these theories, is rooted in the ancient Anunnaki mandate. If humanity was originally engineered as a workforce for gold extraction and managed as a subservient species, then a globalist framework would be the logical extension of that original design. A single, interconnected system of governance, finance, and information would allow for unparalleled efficiency in managing the human resource on a planetary scale. It represents the ultimate fulfillment of the primordial ruler's vision, a world where humanity is not just influenced, but overtly yet subtly controlled for long-term objectives that remain largely hidden from the masses. The light of digital networks connecting every corner of the planet is seen not just as a marvel of communication, but as the intricate nervous system of this nascent global control mechanism. Key institutions are often cited as instruments of this agenda. The United Nations, initially conceived as a forum for international cooperation, is viewed by some as a stepping stone towards a global government, eroding national sovereignty. Organizations like the World Health Organization, WHO, and the World Economic Forum, WEF, are seen as vehicles for implementing global policies that standardize regulations, consolidate power, and dictate behaviors, often under the guise of crisis management or environmental protection. The very notion of global solutions for global problems becomes suspect, reinterpreted as a pretext for the imposition of universal control mechanisms. The scent of bureaucracy, a dry, almost sterile smell often associated with international offices, becomes symbolic of this pervasive, encroaching power. The textures of polished marble and cold steel in these international buildings exude an impersonal, unyielding authority. Financial institutions play a critical role in this alleged globalist design. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, the World Bank, and the system of central banks are believed to be controlled by the Anunnaki-descended elite, allowing them to manipulate global economies, create debt, and exert leverage over sovereign nations. By controlling the flow of money and credit, they can dictate economic policies, force compliance, and consolidate wealth and power in the hands of a select few. The cyclical nature of economic crises is often viewed not as natural market phenomena, but as engineered events designed to destabilize, consolidate, and further centralize control. The crisp rustle of financial documents, the soft whir of high-frequency trading servers, all contribute to the cacophony of a system meticulously designed for global dominion. Technological advancements, particularly in areas like artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and surveillance, are also seen as crucial components of the globalist agenda. These technologies are believed to be developed and deployed to enhance control, monitor populations, and even modify human behavior. The rise of digital currencies, biometric identification, and ubiquitous surveillance systems are interpreted as steps towards a technocratic dystopia, where every aspect of human life is tracked, regulated, and ultimately managed by the hidden elite. The promise of convenience and security is, in this view, a Trojan horse for absolute control. The cold, sterile glow of server racks humming with unseen activity represents the technological backbone of this pervasive system. Cultural homogenization is another facet. Through media, education, and entertainment, the globalist agenda is believed to promote a uniform set of values, beliefs, and narratives, eroding local traditions and individual identity. This cultural flattening prepares humanity for a unified global society, one where dissent is minimized and collective compliance is maximized. The subtle messages in popular culture, the pervasive influence of global brands, and the standardized curricula in educational institutions are all seen as tools for shaping a global consciousness amenable to centralized control. The sounds of global pop music, the slick production of international blockbusters, all contribute to a sensory landscape that subtly steers collective thought. The theory suggests that the ultimate manifestation of this globalist agenda would be a future where nation-states are dissolved, national borders become meaningless, and humanity is governed by a single technocratic authority. This authority, composed of the Anunnaki-descended bloodlines and their chosen proxies, would preside over a meticulously managed planet where resources are allocated, populations are controlled, and the human species fulfills its ancient engineered purpose. The sun, rising over a world devoid of national flags, would illuminate a landscape subtly, yet completely, orchestrated by a hidden intergenerational elite. The feeling of detachment and anonymity in sprawling hyper-modern cities designed for efficiency might be an early manifestation of this controlled global future. This forbidden legacy, therefore, is not just about ancient history. It's about a proposed future that is actively being shaped in the present. It compels us to question who truly holds the reins of power, what their ultimate motivations are, and whether the vision of global unity being promoted is truly for the benefit of all humanity, or for the continued subtle dominion of the primordial rulers' descendants. The very air we breathe, the media we consume, and the systems we interact with daily could all be part of a grand design, a testament to an ancient agenda that continues to unfold in our modern world. Beyond the overt claims of bloodline influence and globalist agendas, the forbidden legacy of the Anunnaki is also believed to manifest through a rich tapestry of symbolism and esoteric meanings embedded within our art, architecture, and even popular culture. These aren't just decorative elements. For those attuned to the deeper narrative, they are coded messages, ancient hieroglyphs speaking volumes about humanity's true origins and the hidden forces that continue to shape our world. Unpacking these symbols is akin to deciphering a cosmic language, revealing truths that have been deliberately obscured or forgotten over millennia. The air around ancient monuments, hushed and reverent, seems to carry the faint echoes of the intentions of their builders, intentions often far grander than mere earthly glory. One of the most pervasive symbols linked to the Anunnaki is the N-winged disk or N-winged sun. This motif appears across ancient Near Eastern civilizations, particularly in Assyrian and Persian art, often associated with supreme deities or royalty. For Sumerian enthusiasts, this symbol represents Nibiru, the Anunnaki home planet, or their celestial craft descending to Earth. Its presence in the iconography of subsequent empires is seen as a subtle acknowledgement of the Anunnaki's foundational influence, a visual echo of their initial arrival from the heavens. The shimmering gold of this symbol, often depicted with intricate details, connects it directly to the Anunnaki's primary resource quest. The sun, a constant in the Mesopotamian sky, would have imbued this symbol with profound cosmic significance. The serpent, or dragon, is another powerful and ambiguous symbol found universally across cultures. In many ancient traditions, particularly in Sumerian and later in the Bible, the serpent is associated with knowledge, wisdom, and temptation. Enki, the Anunnaki geneticist and humanity's creator, savior, is often linked to the serpent through his symbol, the caduceus, a staff entwined with two snakes. This symbol, now associated with medicine, is interpreted as a direct reference to Enki's role in genetic manipulation and the imparting of knowledge, good and evil, to humanity. The serpent's ability to shed its skin is also seen as a metaphor for transformation and rebirth, echoing humanity's engineered beginning. The slithering movement of a snake, silent and mysterious, evokes the subtle, hidden influence of these ancient powers. The cool, smooth texture of a serpent's skin, contrasting with its potentially venomous nature, captures the duality of knowledge. The all-seeing eye, often depicted within a triangle or atop a pyramid, is another ubiquitous symbol that has fueled countless conspiracy theories. Found on the US dollar bill, Masonic regalia, and ancient Egyptian and Sumerian artwork, it is interpreted by some as representing the watchful eye of the Anunnaki, or their bloodline descendants. It signifies surveillance, ultimate knowledge, and a pervasive hidden control over human affairs. The pyramid itself, an architectural marvel spanning multiple continents, is seen as a symbol of hierarchy and esoteric knowledge, with the capstone, the eye, representing the enlightened elite or the Anunnaki themselves, separate from the base, the masses. The crisp green texture of the dollar bill bearing this symbol carries the weight of economic power and hidden authority. Numbers also carry esoteric significance. The number D33, prominent in Masonic degrees and certain conspiracy theories, is often linked to an underlying numerical code associated with ancient wisdom and the Anunnaki's influence. While seemingly abstract, these numerical patterns are interpreted as further proof of a systematic, almost mathematical design behind the world's hidden power structures. The precise geometry of ancient structures, often built with incredible mathematical accuracy, underscores this numerical significance. The sounds of ancient chants, often incorporating numerical repetitions, would have deepened the symbolic weight of these numbers. In modern times, these symbols are believed to be subtly integrated into corporate logos, architectural designs, and even popular entertainment. The choice of certain brand names, company emblems, or architectural styles for government buildings is, for these theorists, not arbitrary. They are deliberate inclusions, understood by the initiated, serving as subtle affirmations of their shared heritage and allegiance to the ancient forbidden legacy. The widespread presence of these symbols, often unnoticed by the casual observer, is seen as a constant, subliminal reminder of who truly holds the reins of power. The subtle glow of modern neon signs, some bearing these ancient symbols, casts a contemporary light on an age-old secret. The very act of decoding these symbols is part of the allure of the forbidden legacy. It implies that a hidden language exists, accessible only to those willing to look beyond the surface, to question the accepted narrative, and to delve into the esoteric. This pursuit is often challenging, requiring a multidisciplinary approach that blends history, mythology, archaeology, and a healthy dose of skepticism towards mainstream explanations. The scent of old books and dusty archives, often encountered by those engaged in this research, is the smell of forgotten knowledge waiting to be rediscovered. The emotional impact of encountering these symbols, especially when one begins to connect the dots across vast stretches of time and culture, can be profound. It transforms the mundane into the meaningful, suggesting that the world around us is far more intricately designed and subtly controlled than we ever imagined. It changes our perception of history, moving it from a linear progression of human achievement to a complex, multi-layered narrative influenced by extraterrestrial intelligence and inherited power. The textures of ancient carvings, worn smooth by centuries, seem to whisper their secrets to those who bother to touch and understand. Ultimately, the symbolism and esoteric meanings attributed to the Anunnaki legacy serve as a powerful testament to the enduring nature of these theories. They suggest that the primordial rulers left behind not just physical remnants and genetic traces, but a sophisticated system of communication, a coded language designed to remind their descendants and those capable of deciphering it of the forbidden truth about humanity's origins and its continuing hidden master plan. The sounds of everyday life, from the rustle of leaves to the distant drone of traffic, become imbued with a new, profound significance, as if the entire world is humming with a hidden message. In a world where the official narratives of history and power are meticulously curated, the emergence of dissenters and whistleblowers is inevitable. When the forbidden legacy of Anunnaki bloodlines and their alleged influence on global affairs is discussed, these individuals become crucial, often controversial figures. They are the ones who claim to have seen behind the veil, to have accessed suppressed information, or to have been part of systems that confirm these extraordinary claims. Their stories, often met with derision, skepticism, or outright hostility, represent a profound challenge to the established order, risking their reputations, livelihoods, and sometimes even their lives. The air around these individuals is often charged with controversy, a palpable tension between the truth they claim to hold and the official dismissal they face. The sounds of their voices, sometimes trembling with conviction, sometimes resolute with defiance, echo with the weight of profound revelations. One of the most prominent figures in popularizing the Anunnaki narrative, particularly the interpretation of Sumerian texts as literal historical accounts of extraterrestrial intervention, was Zecharia Sitchin. A self-taught linguist and scholar, Sitchin dedicated his life to translating and interpreting ancient cuneiform tablets. He posited that the Anunnaki were real flesh and blood beings from a planet called Nibiru, and that they genetically engineered humanity. His books, such as The 12th Planet, became foundational texts for what is now known as the ancient astronaut theory. Sitchin was often dismissed by mainstream academia as a pseudo-scientist, his interpretations challenging deeply entrenched paradigms of history and archaeology. Yet his meticulous, though controversial translations and compelling narrative captured the imagination of millions, opening a gateway for public discourse on these forbidden topics. The scent of old books and ancient languages, the very tools of his trade, filled his workspace, a testament to his dedication to uncovering these hidden truths. The light of his desk lamp, burning late into the night, illuminated thousands of cuneiform glyphs, each holding a fragment of his profound theory. Beyond Sitchin, numerous individuals claiming to be insiders, whistleblowers, or former members of secret societies have come forward with testimonies that allegedly corroborate parts of the Anunnaki bloodline theory. These accounts often detail hidden agendas, global manipulation, and the active role of an elite few in steering humanity's course. While many of these claims are difficult to verify and are often met with extreme skepticism, they contribute to a growing body of alternative narratives that challenge the official story of how our world operates. The sounds of their interviews, often recorded in hushed tones or distributed through alternative media, resonate with urgency and a plea for public awareness. The texture of their recounted experiences, often raw and emotionally charged, provides a stark contrast to the smooth, controlled narratives of officialdom. Figures like David Icke, while controversial and often criticized for his more extreme views, including reptilian shapeshifters, has extensively popularized the idea of a global elite descended from ancient, non-human entities, echoing themes of Anunnaki bloodlines and their control over institutions. Though his specific claims are highly debated, he has undeniably pushed the boundaries of public discourse, forcing discussions about secret societies, hidden power structures, and extraterrestrial influence into mainstream awareness, albeit often through the lens of sensationalism. His passionate speeches, delivered to eager audiences, convey a sense of urgency and conviction, even if the content is wildly speculative. The suppression of information surrounding these topics is a common complaint among dissenters. They argue that mainstream media, academic institutions, and even governmental bodies actively work to discredit, censor, or ignore any evidence that supports the Anunnaki narrative or challenges the accepted view of human origins and power dynamics. This suppression is seen as a deliberate strategy to maintain the illusion of human autonomy and to protect the power and secrecy of the alleged Anunnaki-descended elite. The silence from official channels, the sudden disappearance of certain research, or the vilification of those who speak out are all cited as evidence of this concerted effort. The cold, impersonal surfaces of government buildings designed to project authority become symbols of this powerful, information-controlling establishment. The personal cost for these dissenters is often high. They face professional ostracization, public ridicule, and sometimes even threats to their safety. Their careers are often derailed, their reputations sullied, and their voices marginalized. Yet despite these formidable challenges, they persist, driven by a deep conviction that the truth about humanity's origins and its current state of control is too important to remain hidden. Their resilience in the face of such opposition adds a layer of human drama to the pursuit of this forbidden knowledge. The scent of their determination, mixed with the often bitter taste of public rejection, is a powerful motivator for their continued efforts. The debate surrounding these dissenters and whistleblowers highlights a fundamental tension in our society: the desire for truth versus the comfort of accepted narratives. While some dismiss their claims as baseless conspiracy theories, others see them as courageous truth-tellers, shedding light on uncomfortable realities. Regardless of individual belief, their presence underscores the enduring power of the Anunnaki narrative and its capacity to provoke profound questions about who we are, where we come from, and who truly holds the reins of our collective destiny. The sun, as it shines down on a world grappling with these profound questions, illuminates the faces of both the believers and the skeptics, each searching for their own version of truth. Whistleblowers often pay a huge price for speaking out. Do you believe their claims, or do you think they're spreading misinformation? Share your honest opinion in the comments. This is where the real conversation happens. As we delve deeper into the forbidden legacy of the Anunnaki, the narrative often circles back to one of the most compelling aspects of their story: the advanced technology they supposedly possessed. Ancient Sumerian texts, when interpreted literally, describe capabilities and devices that defy the conventional understanding of ancient civilizations. These aren't just myths of magic. They are accounts of scientific prowess, of engineering feats, and of instruments that resonate with our modern understanding of advanced physics and technology. This concept challenges the linear progression of human technological development, suggesting that a profound technological leap occurred at the dawn of civilization, thanks to an external influence. The air of ancient Mesopotamia, once filled with the simple sounds of early human endeavors, is, in this interpretation, infused with the faint ghostly hum of alien machinery, a whisper from a technologically superior past. The most obvious technological marvel attributed to the Anunnaki is their ability for interplanetary travel. The very premise of their arrival from Nibiru implies sophisticated spacecraft capable of traversing vast cosmic distances. The Sumerian term Mu, often translated as sky chamber or rocket, is interpreted by some as referring to their advanced vehicles. Descriptions of fire, smoke, and thunder associated with their descent from the heavens strongly evoke rocket propulsion. The ability to land on Earth, establish bases, and transport personnel and equipment across planets signifies a mastery of propulsion, navigation, and life support systems far beyond anything known to humanity until very recently. The visual of a gleaming spacecraft descending from the sky, reflecting the harsh Mesopotamian sun, would have been an unforgettable spectacle for early humans. Beyond space travel, the Anunnaki are credited with advanced mining and engineering techniques. Their purported gold extraction operations in southern Africa would have required sophisticated tools for digging, refining, and transporting massive quantities of ore. While ancient texts don't detail laser drills or sonic excavators, the scale and speed of their operations, as implied, suggest technology far more efficient than human-powered picks and shovels. The construction of complex irrigation systems, monumental ziggurats, and precisely aligned city grids in Sumeria also points to an understanding of civil engineering, surveying, and logistics that surpasses what's typically attributed to that era. The sounds of their powerful machinery, even if described metaphorically, must have resonated with an intensity unknown to the nascent human ear. The textures of precisely cut stone and smoothly flowing water in their irrigation canals speak volumes about their engineering mastery. Perhaps the most significant technological gift or imposition was genetic engineering. As discussed, the creation of humanity itself is described as a deliberate, laboratory-based process. This implies an advanced understanding of DNA, cellular biology, and genetic manipulation on a level that humanity is only now beginning to grasp. The tree of life and the tree of knowledge in various myths are sometimes interpreted as metaphors for genetic codes and the ability to alter life itself. The Anunnaki's ability to combine existing hominid DNA with their own, resulting in Homo sapiens, speaks to a biotechnological mastery that fundamentally altered the course of evolution on Earth. The sterile scent of a high-tech laboratory, contrasted with the raw organic smell of biological samples, captures the essence of this profound genetic intervention. The cold, smooth surfaces of their genetic manipulation instruments, imagined through the lens of modern science fiction, would have been the tools of creation. Furthermore, the Anunnaki's astronomical knowledge was unparalleled. The Sumerians possessed incredibly accurate calendars, tracked planetary movements, and understood complex celestial mechanics in a way that confounds conventional historians. This knowledge is attributed directly to the Anunnaki, who, having traveled from another planet, would naturally possess a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos. Their star maps and detailed descriptions of our solar system, including planets unknown to ancient terrestrial astronomy, like Uranus and Neptune, are cited as evidence of their advanced scientific observations. The crisp, clear air of the Mesopotamian night sky, filled with countless stars, was their canvas for imparting this celestial wisdom. The sounds of astronomical instruments, perhaps subtle hums or clicks, would have accompanied their profound observations. The concept of weapons of the gods also appears in some interpretations, particularly in texts describing conflicts among the Anunnaki or their interventions in human affairs. Descriptions of devastating lights, explosions, and widespread destruction are sometimes linked to advanced weaponry, perhaps even atomic or energy-based. The destruction of cities like Sodom and Gomorrah, if attributed to Anunnaki intervention, suggests a power far beyond human warfare, aligning with the idea of a technologically superior civilization capable of immense devastation. The light of such destructive power, imagined through the terrifying descriptions of ancient texts, would have been an unimaginable spectacle. The acrid scent of sulfur and burning rock would have lingered in the aftermath. The long-term implication of this advanced technology is profound. If the Anunnaki possessed and utilized such capabilities, what happened to them? Did they take it with them when they retreated? Did they leave fragments behind, carefully guarded by their bloodline descendants in secret societies? The idea of a lost, suppressed, or hidden technology stemming from these primordial rulers forms a cornerstone of many conspiracy theories, suggesting that humanity's technological progress might be artificially limited or guided by those who control this ancient knowledge. The smooth, cool texture of a perfectly crafted Anunnaki artifact, perhaps made from an unknown alloy, would feel utterly alien to human touch. The question of a technological resurgence further adds to the tension. If the Anunnaki are indeed preparing for a return, or if their descendants are actively working towards a new world order, then the re-emergence or full deployment of their ancient technologies could be a pivotal aspect. Imagine a world where the hidden knowledge of gravity manipulation, free energy, or advanced genetic editing becomes accessible, either openly revealed or weaponized by a select few. This forbidden legacy of advanced technology, therefore, is not just a relic of the past. It is a potential force shaping our future, a potent symbol of power that underscores the profound and enduring influence of the primordial rulers. The sound of our modern technological world, the ubiquitous hum of electronics, might be a faint, unconscious echo of the advanced sounds that once filled the Mesopotamian air when the Anunnaki walked among us. These, as the narrative of the Anunnaki bloodlines and their forbidden legacy culminates, the most tantalizing and terrifying question remains: are they coming back? The Sumerian texts, while detailing their initial arrival and eventual withdrawal, leave room for interpretation regarding their ultimate fate. Many ancient astronaut theorists and proponents of the Anunnaki narrative firmly believe that the primordial rulers are not gone forever, but are merely observing, awaiting a propitious moment for their return. This idea of a looming return casts a long, unsettling shadow over human history and our future, suggesting that our destiny might ultimately be decided not by us, but by our ancient creators. The very air seems to hum with an unspoken anticipation, a subtle tension building beneath the surface of everyday life, waiting for a cosmic reawakening. The sounds of distant thunder or the unusual patterns of stars are sometimes interpreted as precursors to this grand event. The concept of Nibiru, often dubbed Planet X, plays a central role in this theory. According to Sitchin's interpretation, Nibiru is a large, elusive planet in our solar system with a highly elliptical orbit, taking approximately 3,600 Earth years to complete one revolution. This long orbital period would explain the cyclical nature of the Anunnaki's visits. They would only return when Nibiru came close enough to Earth for their journey to be feasible. The 3,600-year cycle becomes a cosmic clock, ticking down to the next potential encounter. Ancient Sumerian astronomy, with its apparent knowledge of all planets in our solar system, including those beyond what was visible to the naked eye, is cited as evidence for Nibiru's existence. The light of distant stars, charting their slow cosmic dance, serves as a silent countdown to a potential rendezvous. The implications of Nibiru's return are profound. If it exists, and its orbit brings it back into our inner solar system, it could cause significant gravitational disruptions, leading to climatic changes, geological upheaval, and even another global deluge. This terrifying prospect, coupled with the potential return of its inhabitants, the Anunnaki, creates a sense of both awe and dread. Would their return be benevolent, a reappearance of our wise creators? Or would it be a reassertion of dominion, a reclamation of their engineered workforce? The answers vary widely among theorists, but the underlying sentiment is one of immense, transformative change on a global scale. The scent of ozone, often associated with a powerful atmospheric event or extraterrestrial craft, might become a pervasive presence in the skies, a harbinger of their approach. Some interpretations suggest that the Anunnaki might not even need Nibiru for a return. Their advanced technology, or the continued presence of their bloodline descendants, could facilitate their reappearance. The notion that the global elite, allegedly Anunnaki descended, are actively preparing for this return is a significant facet of the theory. They might be building underground bunkers, developing advanced aerospace technology, or establishing global control systems to manage the transition and to present humanity to their returning progenitors in a state of compliant order. This intertwining of ancient lore with modern conspiracy theories amplifies the sense of a grand, overarching plan. The feeling of the cold, hard walls of a secret underground facility, far beneath the surface, represents a sanctuary built for an anticipated cosmic event. The signs of their impending return are often sought in unusual celestial phenomena, increasing seismic activity, rapid climate shifts, or even unexplained aerial phenomena, UFO sightings. These events, often dismissed by mainstream science, are reinterpreted as indicators of Nibiru's approach or the Anunnaki's increased reconnaissance missions, subtly preparing for their grand re-entry onto the global stage. The sounds of unexplained aerial phenomena, the distant rumbling of the earth, or the sudden dramatic changes in weather patterns all become part of the ominous symphony of their possible return. The emotional impact of this looming return on human consciousness is immense. It forces humanity to confront its potential subservient origins, to question the very notion of free will, and to grapple with the possibility of a non-human authority dictating our future. It evokes primal fears of invasion and subjugation, coupled with a deep-seated human desire for a higher power or cosmic guidance. The forbidden legacy of the Anunnaki, therefore, is not just a matter of uncovering ancient history. It is a live, unfolding drama with potentially catastrophic or transformative implications for our entire species. The texture of fear, dry in the throat, can be almost palpable when contemplating such monumental possibilities. The implications for religious beliefs are equally profound. If the gods of ancient times were flesh and blood beings who are destined to return, how does this reshape our understanding of divinity, salvation, and the afterlife? Would their return be heralded as the second coming, the arrival of celestial saviors, or the awakening of ancient overlords? The merging of religious prophecy with ancient astronaut theory creates a powerful, often unsettling narrative that challenges established dogmas. The light of a distant approaching celestial body, growing steadily brighter, would forever change our perception of the heavens. Ultimately, the theory of the Anunnaki's looming return is a powerful testament to humanity's enduring quest for meaning and its inherent curiosity about our place in the cosmos. It urges us to remain vigilant, to question official narratives, and to prepare for a future that might be far more extraordinary and terrifying than we could ever imagine. This forbidden legacy, therefore, is not just a tale of the past. It is a prophecy, a warning, and a profound challenge to our collective understanding of ourselves and our place in the universe, all wrapped up in the anticipation of a cosmic rendezvous. We have journeyed through the scorching sands of Mesopotamia, deciphered the cryptic whispers of cuneiform, and confronted the audacious claims of humanity's genetic engineering by the primordial rulers, the Anunnaki. We have traced their alleged gold-mining agenda, explored the complex politics of their celestial pantheon, and witnessed the dramatic twist of the Great Deluge, preserving specific bloodlines. From the establishment of divine kingship across ancient civilizations to the shadowy operations of secret societies and the pervasive influence of alleged Anunnaki-descended global elites shaping a future of centralized control, the forbidden legacy has unfolded in a narrative far grander and more unsettling than conventional history dares to admit. The very air we breathe seems to hum with the lingering echoes of these profound revelations, subtly altering our perception of reality. The sheer volume of consistent information across disparate ancient cultures, the deluge myths, the sky gods, the sudden leap in civilization, the sacred bloodlines, challenges the comfortable narrative of human self-made progress. It forces us to reconsider the possibility that our origins are not solely terrestrial, but bear the indelible imprint of an extraterrestrial intervention. The advanced technology described in Sumerian texts, from interplanetary travel to genetic engineering, further complicates our understanding of ancient capabilities, hinting at a lost or suppressed knowledge that defies conventional timelines. The sounds of our modern world, the constant chatter of media, the distant hum of machinery, now seem to overlay a deeper, more ancient rhythm, a silent frequency emanating from a forgotten past. The enduring mystery lies not just in proving the Anunnaki's existence, but in grappling with the profound implications of their legacy. If we are indeed a genetically engineered species, created for a specific purpose by beings from another world, then our entire understanding of self, free will, and divine purpose is thrown into question. The very essence of what it means to be human becomes a cosmic puzzle, a hybrid identity woven from earthly hominid and extraterrestrial DNA. The light of our understanding, once bright and clear, now appears refracted, distorted by the shadows of a hidden truth. The textures of our daily lives, from the rough fabric of our clothes to the smooth glass of our devices, are imbued with a new, unsettling significance, as if every object holds a secret. The concept of Anunnaki bloodlines persisting through millennia, influencing royal dynasties, secret societies, and modern global power structures, paints a picture of humanity still subtly guided, still potentially controlled by an ancient, non-human agenda. This forbidden legacy, passed down through carefully guarded lineages, suggests that the reins of power may not be in the hands of elected officials or popular movements, but in the grip of an inherited elite, fulfilling a cosmic mandate set forth millennia ago. The scent of power, sometimes described as sharp and intoxicating, takes on a new, more ancient dimension, emanating from a source beyond our world. And then there's the looming question of their return. The cyclical nature of Nibiru's orbit, the prophecies of celestial events, and the alleged preparations by the global elite for a new world order all point to a potential future where the primordial rulers could once again step onto the stage of human history. This prospect is both terrifying and awe-inspiring, promising either a benevolent re-engagement with our creators or a reassertion of a long-lost dominion. Our future, therefore, might not be entirely our own to shape, but part of a grander, ongoing experiment. This narrative, controversial as it may be, compels us to look beyond the superficial, to question the accepted truths, and to entertain the possibility that the universe is far more complex and interconnected than we dare to imagine. It challenges us to open our minds to forbidden knowledge, to re-examine ancient texts with fresh eyes, and to listen to the whispers of history that mainstream science often silences. The journey into the Anunnaki bloodlines is not just an exploration of the past. It is a profound introspection into our identity, our purpose, and our ultimate destiny in a cosmos filled with untold wonders and unsettling truths. The feeling of cool, dry air after a long journey, mingled with the anticipation of what lies ahead, perfectly encapsulates this ongoing quest for truth. If this content opened your mind, comment below, "I made it to the end." This helps us understand who is truly seeking knowledge beyond the surface. Like the video, subscribe to the channel now, and hit that notification bell because the next episodes are going even deeper. And don't leave without clicking the next video. It's the continuation of this incredible journey.